All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to cover in a short amount of time. Everything is going to be talked about that I said over on our other channel about the, of course, deployment of Air Force all over Europe. And then, of course, we're also going to talk about Francis pulling back all of the money and hiding it away. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to cover in a short amount of time, so if you're new, remember you can go to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. We're going over a lot of freaky stuff, so remember, today is going to be a scary movie. So if you don't like scary movies, don't watch scary movies. You are an adult. I trust your judgment. A lot of people kind of tell you what or who to listen to. You're an adult, so why don't you figure that out? Most of the Foogle fam has been with me for years, so I thank you, everybody that pops in right away. I appreciate you. And then, of course, we have so much. So remember, go over to marfooglenews.com, click on today's thumbnail. The stage is set for WW3. Once you click on that, it will be brought down to a full bibliography of every single source, article, tweet, video, picture, document. That way you know exactly where we got this from. You can go check it yourself. Now, at the bottom, there's overflow and web content. The stuff that is too hot for TV is over there, and all of the stuff that we could not fit into the show. If there's something about a viral story about a puppy dog, narrowly escaping traffic, it would be down there. And then let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So let's get right into it. Of course, we have NASA scrubs the Artemis test flight to the moon. Many people have been following this. Many others say it's, I'm sure some are scoffing, saying, "Ha, of course it is." And I don't blame them for thinking so. It says the two-stage space launch system, the SLS rocket, and its Orion crew capsule were due to blast off from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, as the first mission of NASA's Artemis program, successor to the Apollo. So this mission is supposed to be the one that's bringing people back to the moon after decades. After actually 4 decades. Our last mission was in 1972. And that is the one big thing, and you guys know my opinion on this. Why haven't we gone back in 40 years, especially since the last 20 years, I would say. I mean, even the last 10 years, the technology has shot so far up. We could have done it in 2000 with just 1,000 times the technology we had back then. So how could they not do this? That is what has always plagued many. Why? How are they able to go with a computer on the lunar landing system that is now as big as the one that is in the chip in a birthday card you get at Safeway? That just strikes me as odd, and it strikes a lot of other people as odd. But people that are following this, of course, they scrubbed it. I'm sure they'll try to reschedule it. We'll see. This is a big deal because it is mankind going back to the moon. Again, this is a pretty insane time we are living in, and this kind of goes into our next story that we'll be covering here in a second. But Dex, I'm not surprised because we have covered a lot of launches and a lot of canceled launches. Sometimes they will cancel it, seconds before. This one was canceled about 40 minutes before launch.
Well, yeah, and this one, who makes this one? This one wasn't necessarily coming from one of the private companies, right? This was directly from NASA?
Yeah, this was one of their direct projects. So,
right. So, yeah, no shock there. It seems like the private companies, all of them, tend to do a little bit better than the government run version of it, right?
Yes, that is indeed been the fact for the last 5 years at least. And then speaking of people who have private space companies, this is creepy. Elon Musk issues grim apocalypse warning as he predicts the end of mankind. It said Elon Musk has taken to Twitter once again to issue a stark warning to humanity. It says the SpaceX mogul took to the social media site to alert his 104 million followers to his harrowing theory. It says, sharing a link to a BBC article about the death of the dinosaurs, which, Dex, when you saw this, did you not think about everything I've talked about for years as far as like what SpaceX and Starlink is doing and how they added sensors onto Starlink? It says this will happen again, just a matter of time, seemingly referring to civilization's potential impending doom. It says the asteroid that ended the Cretaceous took with it famous dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops, as well as lesser-known but bizarre creatures like Anzu, or the chicken from hell. It says it went on to describe how small rodent-like animals such as Purgatorius, odd name, as well as our distant ancestors then took the place of the planet's former inhabitants. Musk's many fans chimed in, with one saying, adding, already happening. Another speculated, well, in the past 10% of the Earth's past, we know there have been 5 major mass extinctions. So every 50 to 100 million years, it's been awfully quiet for the past 65 million. Just saying, living on 2 planets sounds pretty good right about now. Okay, this is Dex. He has done it again. This is not the first, and this is one of many of his cryptic tweets about an asteroid hitting Earth.
Yeah, this is a repeat. He's sort of a broken record on this one, but when he does this, it's kind of a big deal because he's got such a large audience and so many people pay attention to him. I mean, when he tweets, people write articles like the one we're reading, right? Like, so this is, his words have a lot of impact to the world as a whole. Meanwhile,
Governments of the world are gathering and getting together and sending DNA samples to the moon. They have, of course, have taken like an arc. They have taken every DNA sample of every animal life, on planet, every species of human, every single animal. They're gathering all of the DNA samples from all of them. And they not only want to ship them in the moon, but they want to bury them in the mountains in the earth. Think about what Elon Musk has been doing. He started a company that burrows holes under the ground. Just for a second, imagine with me that everything was a front, and what he is really doing is preparing for an asteroid hitter. Just hypothetically, just for a second, for giggles and schmitzus, just think about it. SpaceX is trying to take the very rich to other planets, to the moon, to, of course, Mars, and inhabit another planet. Neuralink is trying to integrate humans with computers, which also, they say, would be required for long, long space journeys. If you were basically knocked out on life support and if you were dealing with years and years of space travel, then you would need to be tuned in and basically have a dream going 24/7. Just saying, that's a part of it. Also would be very handy for other things as well. And then Boring Company. Boring Company is literally digging holes down underground in through rock and everything else. And to think that they're working this closely with the government everywhere else, but they're not working with the government on bases and dumbs, then that would be kind of crazy. What if, just hypothetically, what if he is actually making, on top of the hyperloops, using that same equipment and making underground military bases and underground shelters for humans? And then, of course, you have Tesla. Tesla is now being involved in every part of lithium batteries. They are now contracting, and it looks like they're going to be making backup batteries for our grids, for EMPs and things like this. So it's like every part of this guy is contracted by the government or by the world's governments. Again, he's doing work for all sorts of countries, especially one of our enemies. And he says this. I'm sorry, I keep getting this feeling that this one part is something he knows about. And it really gets under my skin. And it very well could be him, saying, look over here. Meanwhile, they're resetting everything and doing all that. But I have to say, people, it's hard for them to even accept that the life on Earth would end via a, some sort of meteor or an asteroid. People have, it's natural for us to just think it's never going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to us until after it happens to us. What if they already knew one was coming? And of course, there have been a couple weird things in the past, like, of course, what was it, Apophis? They originally said was basically going to hit. Was it Apophis or a different one that they said was going to hit? And then they said, oh, sorry, we looked at the numbers wrong. Is that what the one was in 2029? Do you know, Dex?
Yeah, I don't remember if that's it, but I know what you're talking about. I've heard that story about them changing it.
Well, they didn't, and they say, oh, well, we looked at it and we had more time to track it, and we said, oh, don't worry, it's okay, it's not going to hit us. And Apophis is going to come around in 2029 and 2036. Then right around the same time that everybody kind of talked about and found out about Apophis, all of a sudden, it was like there was SpaceX, there was the Space Force, there was Starlink. And then I, of course, said when Starlink started, I said, this is kind of weird. They're making a grid a grid around the planet. They're going to make this whole like cage thing set up. And then they added afterwards, and I said, I think it's for some sort of defensive system, like, say, for asteroids. And people say, whatever. And then later, after I said that, a year after I said that, then all of a sudden they declare that every other or 1 out of 4 of the Starlink satellites is actually a detector for hypersonic speed objects, which, again, asteroids are in that hypersonic or beyond region. So is it actually pointing down for hypersonic missiles from Vlad, or is it pointed outwards, or is it both? Is it able to detect, objects coming in at us? The thing is if something comes from us from the sun's direction, we would have very little time. And when you see movies like the, what is it, Don't Look Up, that is a very eerie kind of thing. And I'll tell you why. And I still think this is creepy. The guy that directed Don't Look Up, which if you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. And again, if you have seen it, make sure you stay past the credits for the end scene, because a lot of people miss that. It actually shows them on the other planet and the woman president. I won't spoil it. But that movie was directed by the same director that basically does based on real life stories. And even in the trailer, they said this is based on true events that haven't happened. And then it goes ... yet. And that gentleman is well known for his based on real events movies. And they picked him to direct it, right? And then when you start looking at it, it starts going in. That female president in that movie, basically they made her out to be a female T-Man, our last president. They made her, in little spots where she goes, it was like $300,000 for a picture of me smoking. And I hid smoking for the longest time, but then finally somebody got a picture of it, and it turned out my numbers went up with the people once they saw it. They said it normalized me and made me more of a regular person. Those things are just like the things that happened in T-Man's administration when they caught him and stuff, and it actually helped his ratings and not boost it. There was so many different similarities between that movie and real life during a certain time period. It was freaky. They even put a tweet of Elon Musk's, and this is why this all comes back to it. Elon Musk did a prior tweet, and it showed the Earth, and it showed an asteroid, and it shows a path. Basically, the Earth has a hole in it, and then the asteroid's through the other side. And it says everybody's worried about, the finances or something. And then it says, meanwhile, and it shows a moon, a person on the moon in a spacesuit looking at it, and it's basically destroyed Earth. And that tweet was in the first 15 seconds of Don't Look Up. And I just think, man, there's just so many weird things in that movie that just, totally give me the chills, because it is a realistic possibility if you believe what we've been told so far. And again, I don't blame anybody for not thinking, for thinking any other way, because look at how much we've been lied to. Now they're saying that there is oxygen on the moon, that it's in our atmosphere. They're saying all sorts of things that you would have grown up and said, no, that's BS. They've changed how many planets there are. I mean, they've done all sorts of stuff. What do you think about this, though? I did want to emphasize this because this is why I follow Elon, because I do believe the very top people are doing something. Not to mention Asgardia. You think of Thor and Asgardia from where the gods hang out. When I hear Asgardia, I think of the very top elites, and I'm talking about presidents, prime ministers, princes that are all on the list of this new space government, Asgardia, and they are actually doing all of the real paperwork to make it a governing society in space. Now, whether you believe it's going to happen or not, that's up to you, but we will see. Very shortly, we'll figure something out. And if they launch off the planet, we'll go, well, if you don't believe it, then, are they just going up into a plane very high and hanging out and looking down on us? I don't know. It's their style to look down on us anyways. But either way, that government, which anybody can join, right? You can get a little certificate saying, I'm a citizen of Asgardia. That's for the regular people. At the very top end, they're actually doing the paperwork to form an actual thing. So that just trips me out. On top of all of the other things I've covered over the years, like them storing seeds, them making these arcs, they're trying to work on all these different, and defense against this. How many asteroid-related missions have all of the planet's governments done lately? Hayabusa, Osiris-Rex, 027, I'm missing quite a bit, in fact. Bennu, the Bennu one where they went and smashed it. I think that was the Hayabusa 2. They have done so many, and they have made lasers that smash them out of the sky. They have made missiles that smash them out of the sky. They're coming up with all sorts of things. Hammer, hypervelocity asteroid and mitigation emergency vehicle, basically strapping a nuke onto a rocket. So I know that this is just on a tweet, but man, this tweet, to me, I'm sorry. I really think that this guy is just laughing in our faces and that they know something. Oh, and the timeline of all of this space stuff just sped up like crazy. And most people will say this, besides space and anything else, everything down here on Earth has sped up like crazy. It's like in just a couple years, our complete culture has changed worldwide. People are protesting across the planet because we are just getting push. Everything is happening. It's like they just turn the speed up. And they're telling us that the moon will wobble in 2030, just around that same period. 2029 is, by the way, 2024 through 2030 is this weird period of all these events that is accepted through the entire scientific community, that we will have catastrophic flooding on Earth, that we're running out of this, we're running out of that, we're running out of this. They're telling us that the planet is essentially doomed. Anyways, even if you don't believe in all this, the main narrative is that the world is dying. What if, I just question, what if it's actually something else that the same kind of story might lead up to, right? All right. Sorry, Dex. This is like, I get stuck on that stuff. I think that they may have. Oh, and then Sunspot. Don't even get me started on Sunspot. I'll just shut up. Look up Sunspot, and when they got shut down and had right after Sunspot is when all sorts of stuff happened. Sunspot Observatory was shut down, and they say that 6 other solar observatories were shut down, and they said that they were running a ring of pictures of the little ones. And those pictures, it was one guy at this thing, and they shut it down for weeks. And they went and questioned everyone who lived around them. They went to the local post office and made sure to question everybody. Like, hey, did something get sent out of this solar observatory? Did he put a disc in a piece of mail and send it out? That's my thought. And then, of course, after they came in with Apaches and all this, not a SWAT team, not like a regular police department. They came in with Apaches and all sorts of like military stuff for one guy. And they said that he was running a network of this and that. And then in that same year, we find out that there's all these stories about how there was documents leaked that says that basically any one of these governments has done that to people to then basically give them an excuse to just wipe them off the planet. Weird. Just telling you, it's weird. All right, Dex, do you want to talk about the wireless carriers? Unless you want to comment about other stuff, you know my theory on it.
Yeah, I think you've covered it well enough. But yeah, let's talk about the wireless carriers, because this is something that I think most people in our audience, and ourselves included, we know this, right? Like, we know that they track us. They're always tracking us. But what we got is confirmation on how long and what they're doing with it. And it's something that they've never really told us before. So in these letters that came out that was made public by the FCC, they basically came out and told us exactly how long and what data is being stored by the major carriers. So, for example, T-Mobile is retaining your latitude and longitude coordinates off of your device for up to 90 days. And they're retaining all your cell tower pings which is not as granular, but that's the triangulation that they can do, for up to 2 years. And then I think Verizon holds all of its cell data for up to 1 year. And AT&T, of all of them, said it may retain the cell data for up to 5 years. And they provide all of this information to the government. So that's what was released in these letters, I guess should say uncovered in these letters, these FCC letters that were released and shown. So it's not surprising. Like I think everybody here probably says that. And that's why we talk about the off-grid bags and things like that. Put your phone in a bag and, make sure it can't be tracked or traced, right? If you need that level of security and privacy. So we know this, but it's really amazing that this came out and they're telling us exactly how much how long they're storing it for, and that they do provide it on demand and probably in real time to the government.
I mean, it's and the fact that they're so well connected, and you think about how the things they added for your convenience, like on every phone having of course, a fingerprint reader, and then wanting to get it just like it actually mattered. Like, I don't think people were like, hey, I wish the fingerprint was in the screen. Did anybody really ask for that? I think that when you get that, here's the thing. If it was on the back or a place, you could try to avoid it. You could try to, not go around it, or you could put something over it, but you couldn't avoid it when it was built into the screen. That was my thought on it. Like, when it was on the back of the phones where your finger naturally went, like, okay, yeah, they could snatch it that way. But when it was there, you could put a sticker over it and then never have to use it on the newer phones. Now, every phone, including the cheap ones, they just have to have it inside the screen, the touch screen, which at some point you're going to touch. So even if you didn't want to use that feature, come on. We all know that they can hack into the phone and grab that fingerprint. So they can scan your fingerprint. Remember, before cell phones, the only reason you would be giving us a fingerprint is if you did a crime. And if you didn't do a crime, your fingerprints were not in the system. How many of you think you now have, and by the way, how many of you that have never committed a crime in your entire life think that your fingerprint is on a database? Probably everybody. And then to make it more easy for you, we are going to put an iris scanner. We need facial recognition so it knows it's you to unlock your phone, because everybody treats their phone like their computer, and they do all sorts of weird and unsavory things, I'm sure. So you lock it, and it's for your convenience, but then you're giving facial recognition data. You're giving iris data. You're giving them fingerprints. You're giving them all of your bio data. And you told them that you're okay with doing this if it's for convenience. And then now look at what's happening. They're using it in grocery stores. You walk into a Walmart, they have a system. They have gas stations where I showed you. I videotaped this. In Tacoma, Washington, we were driving through and there was a gas station. We were almost out of gas and we had to pay cash. So we had to go inside the store. Well, guess what? My wife walks up to the door and it has a green and a red thing. And it has a camera above and it says, look up at the camera. She looked up and it went red twice. She had never been to this chain, never been to this gas station ever before, but it was seeing her as somebody else. So finally, she did it a third time and it turned green. And we were like, what the heck was that? It was facial recognition, and it basically would not let them enter the building without looking up at this camera. That is absolutely just, people should be protesting that. But of course, people are like, oh, it's convenient. And I sat there and I videotaped several people, and the people that lived there, they were so used to it that they would just walk up and look up and then open the door. People got trained. So people would just naturally go, oh, okay. And then the door would unlock. That's crazy. It's like obviously they've been tracking and tracing and it's all this, but it's partly our fault. We let this happen. And then hackers have laid siege to U.S. healthcare, and a tiny HHS office is buckling under the pressure. With a dearth of resources, the Office of Civil Rights is struggling with an overflowing caseload. Cybercriminals steal medical information of tens of millions of people in the U.S. every year, a number that is rising fast, and healthcare undergoes its digital transformation. It leads to millions of dollars in losses for hospitals, insurers, and other healthcare organizations. It says threatens care delivery and exposes patients to identity theft. It says, but the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights, which is tasked for investigating breaches, helping healthcare organizations bolster their defenses, and fining them for lax security, is poorly positioned to help. That's because it has a dual mission, both to enforce the federal health privacy law known as HIPAA and help the organizations protect themselves. And the Congress has given it few resources to do the job. It says they're a fish out of water. They were given the role of enforcement under HIPAA, but weren't given the resources to support the role. CEO of Synergist Tech, a Texas firm that helps healthcare organizations improve their cybersecurity, said due to its shoestring budget, the Office for Civil Rights has fewer investigators than many local police departments. And its investigators have to deal with more than 100 cases at a time. It says the office has had a budget of $38 million in 2022, the cost of about 20 MRI machines that can cost $1 million to $3 million a pop. It says another problem is that the office relies on cooperation of the victims, the institution that hackers have targeted, to provide evidence of the crimes. Those victims may sometimes be reluctant to report breaches, since HHS could then accuse them of violating HIPAA and levy fines that come on top of the costs streaming back to the breach and the ransoms often demanded by hackers. So Dex, basically the system is super flawed. It's super it's super underfunded, basically meaning that anybody in the hospital system is at risk. What do you think about how this is playing out?
Well, it wasn't but a year ago, I think we were talking and we were on the heels of a whole lot of those ransomware attacks, especially with hospitals and other organizations, maybe a year and a half ago. But now, we're seeing that not just that, the data, they're going after the data and they're attacking and hacking this left and right. I mean, the numbers they put in here on losses and the fact that they have lax security, the fact that they've got, inability to actually investigate these cases and figure them out really, puts something that is pretty important, I think, and I think everybody should think, and that's your, the privacy rights of your, your healthcare and what's going on with your health. So, I can only imagine, you can think of a hacker on one hand doing it for the money, but then think about what may be going on in other nations that are trying to get information about, our people, and can they do something with that? Can they get information that's beneficial to them, whether it be an adversary or whatnot, right? So, imagine what Xi would do if he could get access to everyone's medical records here in America, for example.
If he doesn't already have them. By the way, thank you, Maria Perez. Thank you guys for keeping the Marfoogle gang informed. Hey, thank you, Maria. I appreciate your support, and thank you so much. Post Anything 3. Your channel has real important info we all need. Well, thank you, Post Anything 3. I appreciate that, and welcome. And then Kenny Crowder, I'm just a human. Let me be. Hello, Foogle fam, and the best mods on YT. Of course, Adam Dex, be safe. Love your way. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. And again, actually, you were suggested as a potential mod by the other mods. I asked all of the mods, and a lot of them said you. So, Kenny Crowder, if you're interested, let me know. Mysteries Mystery School, no fears, stay safe, be happies, good vibes, always. Again, thank you, and I hope you're still here for that. And then Wendy K, have you watched I Pet Goat 2? Of course. I've actually done it. If you search that in the right-hand corner of marfugglenews.com, what's cool about it is any show that we have added that to and talked about, you can go back to those shows and then watch what we've said about it. So, I Pet Goat 2, the last time I talked about it, I believe, was when that church steeple, wasn't it? I think, was it Notre Dame? When the church steeple fell down, and it was exact. I mean, it looked just like what was in that video. I mean, when things like that happen, it just kind of, it makes you go, is this a freaking Matrix? How did this happen? And even if somebody tried to plan that happening, that's just insane. So very freaky, that video, yes. And then Stephen McMahon, Xi have to hit Taiwan within the next year, either this September or in the spring, otherwise is screwed. And then Teresa, Chevalier, thank you. I appreciate your support. And then it all started when I was born. It says, need to change name. Nobody gets home in NH. Well, I think it all started when I was born is actually genius. And then Christine Martocchio, thank you so much for your support on the last show, and I believe I missed you, so thank you. Same with Chia Lisa and Jason Beck. So, okay, moving on. I wanted to add, 1 in 4 cyber attacks resulted in increased mortality by delaying care. So people may have actually passed because of the cyber attacks. I mean, I almost guarantee it with at least one of them where their whole system went down and they couldn't provide surgeries. They were mid-surgery and they couldn't continue. There was all sorts of weird things that happened there. And then before we talk about France, taxman deploys AI spy to spot hidden swimming pools. Yeah, this is where we're getting. I do want to remind everybody, if you have not gotten prepped up and you are looking to go do so, we highly recommend it. Obviously, most people here are kind of understanding of what is going on in our world right now. If you do want to just get something that is done and packaged up so you have it, checked off your list, then this is a really great spot. Go to marfugglenews.com/prep and you can get freeze-dried foods. Again, this is freeze-dried foods that are then packaged as MREs. You just add water and cook, and it brings most of the life back into the food. Freeze-dried foods are great because essentially it takes out every single bit of moisture and it preserves that food for 25 plus years while also keeping a ton of the flavor. Now, this actually has all sorts of different packages. You can get a 72-hour kit for 3 days. You can get a 1-month kit. You can get a 3-month kit. Right now, there is a sale on the 3-month kit. It has always been $150 off. Right now, it is still $250 off. So make sure to go over there while you still can. Again, that is the best deal they've done since we've worked with them for about 3 years. They have the Alexa Pure Pro. They have iodine tablets over there. If you are worried about any kind of nuclear disaster, you can actually get those there. They also have battery banks. They have survival books because there will be no Google if the grid goes down. This isn't to scare you. It's more of a thing like, hey, if you are going to go do this, if you're already planning on going and getting prepped, if you do it through us, it helps us out. They send us a commission. They give you a discount. So you're not paying anything more. You're actually paying less, and you're helping your favorite channel at the same time. So I appreciate everybody that does go over and supports that way. But again, it's something that there are many creators. If you want to support a different creator, go ahead and support a different creator. But that's how the YouTube ecosystem works, especially for controversial providers of content. If you see something you will get eventually or you want to get, then get it through a creator. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the France taxman deploys AI spy to spot hidden swimming pools. So they're going to get you no matter what.
Right. So it sounds like they've taken some technology from the OOG and worked with a large tech company, Capgemini, that's out of France, and they developed AI software to look at aerial images. And this is just one example, but the point being is leveraging, these are some of the things that we're going to start to see with AI coming out. And in this particular case, they're doing it, for the taxman. They're looking to find pools, because that's an easy thing for it to auto detect from these aerial images, and they're scanning all of the territories looking for pools that aren't in the system, that aren't registered. Because if you have a pool, obviously maybe you didn't have it permitted, you should have, or maybe it makes the property value higher and they should tax you more. So they are using this technology as one example of this technology to go across the country and find all of these untaxed swimming pools. It's kind of silly to think about pools, but not really when you think about it. And it's also kind of creepy when you think about the technology that's now being used in this particular case by that group in France.
So speaking of which, my friend just said that they are going door to door for a solar company, and they're basically telling people, hey, we're going to be up above with a drone. But not any drone, not just like a Mavic or something like that. Apparently, it's a drone that is directly connected to NASA and NOAA. And they're doing surveys, and they're letting people know so they don't, bang it down if it's above their house. But they went door to door to door to door to tell them, hey, we're going to be above your house. Please just understand what this is. If you have any questions, ask us. But what the main point of this is NASA and NOAA and the U.S. government, for the guys of solar, are going and droning above everyone's houses. And with this whole, in Washington here, they actually have a program, and I think they have it a lot of places now, where they're trying to get everybody to go solar. And, you see all those YouTube ads like, you could get free solar, some apply. 1 out of every 150,000 may get free solar. And then you're like, wow, I'm winning the lotto here, possibly. And so why are they flying over all of our houses? And now Google is basically saying, well, we don't even have to. We'll just use satellite images and look at your pools. What I think is also interesting is that France and everywhere else, they're all focused on this tax stuff. I also just saw a picture, and I don't know if it's true, but if you think about it, they want everything to be going through a digital system. If you look at Walmart, I'm sorry, but it does not make any sense how they have set up this Sense CV. They put in all these self-checkouts. First of all, it never made sense to me that if there is something that you don't want to catch, why would you have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people a day using the same object? Everybody's going to be touching it. Everybody's going to be touching the scanner. Everybody's going to be putting their hands down on it and then touching their face. It didn't make any sense. It's because now you've saved one clerk and now you're actually spreading it to 5,000 people, and they're all going to be inter-spreading their stuff. That didn't make sense. But then they started saying, oh, well, now we're out of change. Since everybody's at home and nobody's out spending money, that now there's no change. They want every transaction tracked. And now they have gotten it down to where they have bottlenecked every single person paying with cash to one machine. At least that's how it is locally. All of the Walmarts have it to where just cash, you could wait 45 minutes in a line that goes all the way to the back of the store. And when you get there, they're like, oh, you actually have to be over there. That's the one cash machine. 60 machines. If you have card, you go right through. They're training. They're training you to use the credit card. And if you don't, get a prepaid card, which still has all of the same information. That's where Blue Dot or whatever these dot cards and everything else, they want everybody to do it because guess what? That needs a social security number. So that way they get you. Banking for All Act. If you haven't looked that up, then go ahead. Brian actually did a great video over on High Impact. That video, I think, got him hit for some reason. But then you look at all of this, and it's like they are going around the planet. They're doing this. They're taxing everything. They want everything digital. And then I saw a picture. I want to say it was Susan Donahue that had something about... it was a Starbucks that says we're going completely cashless on a certain day. I don't know if somebody did Photoshop on the picture, but I that's not surprising whatsoever, especially Starbucks. Going completely cashless by October 1st. If that is true, people need to wake up. I'm sure they'll offer you to where you can buy with cash to buy one of their cards so then they can track it. But that card, I bet you'll need a social security number or some stupid crap. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then soldiers test integrated augmented reality tech with Stryker vehicles. Dex, can you go over this real quick? And then I'm going to load up the next piece.
Well, yeah. So we'll continue to see this advancement of technology. And for those who are not familiar with augmented reality, this is the sort of the glasses or the ability to see normally what you see in front of you, but then have things added to it. So if you think of like a heads-up display, but much more advanced. So you're basically looking through a lens that gives you the full view of what you should see, but then they're overlaying data or images or information into it. So it might highlight, you might look across the battlefield and see, 3 tanks, but one of them is marked red, meaning it's an enemy, right? Or things like that. So this is some of the new advanced technology that's going in, and it sounds like that the soldiers are running with it on the Stryker vehicles. So this is coming out of your neck of the woods there, Adam, at Lewis McChord. So the office is actually the program executive office for ground combat systems had a 2-day demonstration at JBLM in the last few days, hosting this state-of-the-art communication and visual augmentation technology. So they're doing it with the Strykers. Obviously, the Strykers are really huge out there. I know you've got a ton of them at JBLM. So, and you can see in one of these pictures, you'll see one of the soldiers with goggles on, and and it looks like a camera mounted above the goggles. That's the tech. So that is like basically adding in information to what they see. So you're seeing everything you would normally see, and then there's a whole lot of other information, whether it's having the ability to see what a satellite may be showing you from above, depicting things behind a wall, showing you heat signatures that may not actually be coming from you. They may be coming from other devices that are put out in the field that are sending that information back to your visual inputs so you can see it. It's almost like thinking of these video games. When you're playing in a video game, it's taking it's taking it to a totally new level for our soldiers.
It's a heads-up display that essentially shows things, and it could use data from the cameras. Of course, have thermal and everything. They've already had that, but this could also have facial recognition. Imagine a soldier walking through a village in Afghanistan or something, and they have taken pictures of all of the villagers, and then when they're walking with these funky goggles, it will start saying, that's Bob, or that's Ahmed, or Bob Med right there. This is where it's all going, and we've covered kind of all of this happening. And remember, the Strykers in specific, this is kind of an update because all of the JBLM Strykers were covered, and everybody had questions like, what did they just add? They had something physically added. I wonder if that was part of the augmented reality stuff that was being added to them. I don't know if you've been with me for a long time, we covered that, and people thought it was strange that all of them were covered up with like car covers, huge Strykers being covered. So very odd. And then we have Xi's Shenzhen shuts down electronics market to fight CV. My personal belief is that this, and this is just my opinion, that this is, I don't know if I exactly believe that. First of all, I've shown you guys they're closing down all sorts of stuff. They're closing down factories because of electric reasons. They said that they don't have enough power because of this, or they're doing it to preserve this or that. Meanwhile, the ports have had all sorts of issues. And now it says authorities in Xi's southern city of Shenzhen shut down the world's largest electronics market of Haoquang Bay and suspended service at 24 subway stations on Monday in a bid to curb an outbreak of CV. It says 3 key buildings in the sprawling area comprised of thousands of stalls selling microchips, telephone parts, and other components to manufacturers will stay closed until September 2nd. So wonder if there's anything going on up until then. We got 3 or 4 days of everything is closed. This, even a day closed, is something that can cause backlogs and all sorts of things. Just wonder if it's going to reopen. Why?
Or will they extend
Why would they
it?
even close it though? Yeah, but why would they even close it for 3 days? Is that really going to stop a thing of Civ? And I'm sorry, most of you are probably like, yeah, that's doesn't sound why. The thing is Xi, they tell people that for everything now. They're like, oh, we got to close Starbucks. It's because of the Civ. We got to close it for 2 hours because of this. It's like, what? No. What do you think, Dex?
Well, if it's anything that they want to do larger, then this will expand, right? If this is meant to be something bigger, that there's always a start, and it never seems to just be, oh well, it's just going to be 3 days and we're good, right? It's like, okay, 3 days. Oh, by the way, now it's we've got 10 more buildings, we've got 17 more city blocks. Now it's half the city. And it just expands from there. And we've seen this before with this zero policy. But like you said, I don't know if it's really a zero policy or if it's really something else happening behind the scenes and what they're trying to do. But yeah, this, Shenzhen's pretty important for the tech community and for the technology that comes out of there. Obviously, this specific building was for a lot of the manufacturers and that make the components and they sell to other manufacturers. So we'll have to see. But
what if they're using it?
I wouldn't be surprised if they come back and it's like, oh, it's another week, and oh, by the way, it's we just made the circle even larger. We're taking out a lot more area.
What if they're using it for military stuff? Isn't it? So Vlad changed all of his factories into military factories that make weapons and all sorts of other stuff. They did it publicly. Xi, there was a question that all of these factories that were shut down, if they were truly shut down, that was just the question. Now you see the electronics market closed for this amount of time. I wonder if they'll have that, producing something, but only now not for the world, but now for Xi's government. I do know somewhat of this open air market that they have there with the electronics, because I've seen, I forget the creator's name, but they would go through. It wasn't Serpenzade. It was another large creator that goes in and he makes phones out of little scrap parts. And he went to these markets you can get anything you want, any part you can think of. There's a little warehouse that has every part you can think of. Samsung, Apple, doesn't matter what it is. There was also a black market there. So I think that's the Shenzhen. So, but we'll see. And then Taiwan says it will now bang bang down rogue Chinese drones. After a string of embarrassing incursions by Xi drones over its outlying islands, Taiwan has now vowed to take them down if necessary. It says as its next move in the fast-developing challenge of Xi drone incursions, the Taiwanese military has reportedly confirmed that it will, in the future, take these down, unmanned aerial vehicles that don't respond to its warnings. The move comes after authorities on a self-governing island said that they would deploy undisclosed, domestically developed drone defense systems. It says that go across its territory, which followed by a highly public encounter between a Xi drone and 2 Taiwanese soldiers as of course it lists as well, which you can read about that if you click it on the website, marfooglenews.com, and you can find the rest. So they are now, and by the way, drones, we think of, drones flying over. These are military drones. They could very well do part of their invasion when they do eventually do it, or, hopefully they won't just turn on their back and say, hey, you can have it. But if they do invade militarily, which most people say it's just a matter of time, drones could be a huge part of the first force that goes in. They're unmanned. Now they have the ability to go all the way into Taiwan without anyone ever perishing if they do get taken down, and they can do a whole lot of damage. Xi has been mass producing these, and it also makes me think back to the previous story. Like, are those electronics places now being used to help, a 3-day project producing thousands of drones or something? The reason I say that is because Xi made most of its navy, went from like number 4 size navy to the number 1 largest navy in the world, like that. And everybody is like, what the heck just happened? Well, they were making undercover. They actually had satellite cover. They had huge bays where they were making ships, and they were doing it secretly. And the whole world was in the dark about it. And then by the time they were all built, it was like, boom, they already had them out and deployed. As far as some things are really hard to conceal, like them making their carriers, but I also think they might be making extra carriers as well. There have been things that have been found on satellite images that looked like giant football field covered objects. They have had weird things happen in some of the jungles in Xi's country where they think it is a covered area of secret bases. We've covered that as well. So I don't know what's exactly is going on here, but it does look like if they do take down a drone, is that rules of engagement? Will that start something? We don't know yet. And then, Dex, do you have a comment about the drones?
Well, yeah, I'm just more concerned with, when they actually strike someone else, another country's property, what does that lead to, right? It's one thing when they have these incursions, it's one thing when they push a little line here, or they fly over there, but when we actually start to see, things taken down from another country to another country, that's a totally different position to be in, right? Things will change immediately, I think.
As the youngins would say, it's a vibe check. I don't think that's how it's used. It's a vibe check. No, it doesn't sound right. I don't think I used that properly. If you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. We highly recommend one of these on your car, especially if you have a model that will end up getting fried in the event of either an EMP or a CME. Some cars don't need this, so make sure to go check. But again, this is an incredible device. The most popular version of an EMP Shield is for your car. Basically what it does is it grounds the signal from an EMP, all 3 phases, and multiple times, in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. Now, again, they make ones for your RVs, your motorcycles, your boats, pretty much anything transportation-wise that you want to keep running. They most likely have a device that you can put in about 10 minutes. And then, of course, they make one for your home. That one does need a professional to put in, but that one actually protects every device within a certain distance of it wired in. So pretty much most people's homes it would protect everything in your home that's plugged in. Now, this is also the company that has worked with agencies like DHS, DOD, and of course on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. This company was mentioned in the DHS, Department of Homeland Security EMP Resilience Report, as one of the top companies as far as the companies that they called when the executive order to harden our grid was signed by our previous president. So again, this is a great company. We started with them before all of that, and we have watched them grow. At one point, we actually worried if they were still going to make these devices for civilians. But after they got all those contracts, they even doubled down. They said, we want every single person to have one of these on. Again, it's a very simple thing. It's a very advanced solution at the same time to this. If an EMP happens, up to 90% of us would perish. And that's because we would not have access to running water, everything else. If you want to protect you and your own, because no one is going to save you, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will get a grandfathered in $50 discount on everything there. Each device is $50 off, and that stacks on top of any sale they do. That's marfooglenews.com/EMP. Very easy to get to. It's a veteran-owned business. It's 100% American-made, and it could save your life. It also works for CMEs. Again, a Carrington-level event will happen. It's a matter of time, not a matter of if. So that is also something to think about. All right, Dex, let's go into the next story. Let's talk about how Vlad's chiefs are being blown up, poisoned, and banged by Vlad's enemy as net closes on the Vladian tyrant. This is, of course, opinion. Dex, you want to cover how they frame this?
Well, yeah, you know what was so striking here is when you look at this image. We've talked about a few of these, and we've probably talked about each one of them a little bit over time. But when you put it all together, that's actually quite a few people. Unfortunately, 6 that have, or whatever you would want to call it, 6 that have, and then 3 that have somehow avoided or survived, right? And obviously the list goes on. But when you think about conflict like this, this is part of it, right? This is part, whether it's internal, where some are saying there's internal enemies of his that are doing it. Some are saying these could be him doing it to people that aren't falling in line, or this could be external, right? Things that are happening from outside, whether it be coming from the West or UKR or others, that are, working against at such a close level at going after these, highly targeted individuals with his within his, purview. So kind of a very, stark look when you see that many faces. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize it was that much, although I think we probably covered most of these.
I have an opposite look on this because I think so if you look at it, so the daughter, the one who survived, is that woman, the woman's dad. That is the most recent, I believe. Actually, no, I think the ones next to it is the most recent. But by the way, she was obviously a beautiful young lady. If she truly has no kind of connections to any of this, that's incredibly sad. Very, very sad to see just an innocent person perish. But I look at this as basically 5 people and an unintended, and then 5 people of his network. The reason why I say this is they make it look like, oh, it's closing in and everyone around him. That's 5 people. He has 1,000 people working around him. I just don't think that this is really going to affect the turnout. Like he's in a corner. They kind of paint this picture that he's trapped in a corner and paranoid of everybody, and even has somebody go in and get his stool out of the toilet after he's done because he's so paranoid somebody's going to find out something and that he's scared and that they're retreating. I'm not trying to say that they're great, but I'm saying this is a force not to underestimate. This is Vlad. This is their country. We know how they fought in WW2. They're not a joke, and you never want to underestimate your enemy. As far as this goes, I don't think that these 5 people, this is probably what they think. There's probably way more than this that have perished under, suspicious circumstances that we don't know about. And I believe that we most likely have people on our side that are not in the news. We've had some attempts lately that have been publicized, and people that have even, had some things happen. But I think that most of the actual deaths and things, those happen on accident. They fall from a 120-story building, on accident. They take their own life with 8 bangs to the back of the head. That's how I would do it. Just maybe tie a string around it, right? I don't know. But I do think that a lot of it is not publicized, and we don't know truly how this has affected the world. I don't think it's personally going to do much, and it may just piss people off. I don't know. And then U.S. has given so much weaponry to UKR that one of its munition stockpiles is getting uncomfortably low. So wanted to point it out that we pulled this up because this is like, quote, what we were talking about. Remember when we said, if we're giving all of our stuff away, it may leave us in a spot where we don't have anything. We talked specifically about this, and now there's a story that backs up exactly what Dex and I were talking about. Is this not crazy that this is the exact scenario? We talked about it like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, every time we keep sending stuff over, part of the commentary we had was, well, how much do we have to give, right? Like, we talk about it in monetary amounts, but in reality, they're actually sending over hard goods. And in this particular case, it's actually getting to the point where our officials are saying, hey, wait a minute, we're uncomfortably low, right, on certain things. So that's kind of a big deal. We had sort of suggested that, maybe doing this was going to cause a problem for ourselves. Like, why would we give away so much stuff if we're about to be, in a position where we may have to do something on two different fronts, right? Or if something bad was to happen to us and we needed to have it to protect our own homeland, right? We start, shipping everything out then and giving it away, then we don't have it, right?
Yep, and leave ourselves vulnerable. What if we can't defend ourselves from something? And people have it in their brain that nothing's ever going to happen, but personally, a lot of us here, we don't think like that. By the way, they don't usually use very good pictures for stock photos, but what an amazing freaking photo. Just imagine the power behind that thing. That looks like, that's just unbelievable. Look at that. It looks like eyes, like devil eyes or something. All right, and then I did want to say thank you, everybody over on DLive, Maui Racing Realtor, thank you, Bling It on Grandma, Sky House, Chewy Weather, Chance Powden. James Munder just donated a lemon. I'm wondering if that's his friend under his account. I'm hoping that somebody was able to use that. Maybe one of his close friends could keep, what he was doing up. Unless somebody did that afterwards, I don't know. God, that just makes it drop my heart to see that name there. And then rest in peace, James. Okay, and then let's see here. Thank you, everybody. It's one of those things where you think that you can just like text or call them. Teresa Chevalier, thank you, and thank you. Chia Lisa, again, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting independent guys. And then Maria Perez, Post Anything 3, Kenny Crowder, Mystery School, thank you. And then, of course, Kenny Crowder, once again, Adam would be happy to have you back. Safe, love your way. Okay, cool. Jane Doe Lette, they tricked the entire world when they sold the American dream. That was Jane Doe Lette. Yeah, well, I don't know if the American dream is... most people believe it's pretty much gone, but I think that it still exists. Because as long as capitalism still has a foothold, you can still succeed and try to... raise up. But I think that it is rigged against people that you can't be an elite, from poor upbringing unless there's some sort of connection. All the people that are truly up at the very top, they're there because of their some sort of connections. Hey, Elon, if this broke Bama Boy can throw a few bucks, you could too. We know you're watching. Jace 1987. Thanks, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Been watching 2 years. Keep up the good work. Hey, thank you, Jace 1987. Appreciate that. And then, of course, thank you, Jane Doe Lette. All right, and then UKR issues iodine pills to civilians as shelling continues around nuclear power plant. It says that UKR issues iodine pills to civilians as the shelling continues, and they have actually given the tablets to civilians near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant amid fears of a radiation leak due to constant shelling. This is, again, what they're telling us. Most of the world media, most people, and this is just the truth, I believe even data backs this up, many people are really having a hard time believing anything that they are seeing. Whether it be a video of the object, then people go, oh, it's a fake video. If it's audio, it's fake audio. If it's wrote down, fake signature, it doesn't matter what it is. People do not believe what's happening right now. And that's really sad. It's really sad that we are in this position because we've been lied to so much. But as far as this goes, this is pretty freaky because what they're saying is that they are giving away iodine tablets there and in Moldova. So that's two places, at the very least, distributing these in mass. At least 25,000 tablets have been delivered to the city of Enherdor and from the regional reserve. If you don't know what this is, I also did this on the main channel, and I talked about this. I told you it would go more in depth. Potassium iodate, essentially, it takes the place in your thyroid. Your body absorbs it, and it basically fills up your thyroid, so then the radioactive stuff doesn't. Dex, that's pretty much how it works, right? It just basically absorbs in to where you can't absorb the radiation, or your thyroid stops, gets filled up.
Correct. Potassium iodide, and it just basically fills it up. It's like, filling up the cup, and you can't pour anything else in, and then it slowly wears off. So you have to, I think it lasts about 24 hours on average.
Does it have any negative side effects itself? Like that just sounds like something that I don't know, and I don't want to necessarily give any advice on that, when and how to take it, and if you should or shouldn't. But I'm assuming, there's probably people that have allergies to certain things, and that may be part of it. But it's one of those things that's been around since forever. I mean, they were using this back in the 50s. They were using it before I was born, in the sense of having it for your preparedness, like if you were going to be exposed to this. And by the way, it's not like the cure-all. It's not just one thing, and you're done, because it only protects that one part of your body. Now, that's a very important part of your body, because when radiation does get into your thyroid, it then wreaks havoc, right? But it doesn't stop any other type of radiation issues that you can get to the rest of your organs and the rest of your body. So it's not like a super pill or something like that you just take it and now you're worry free. It's just one part. But it is an easy part because it's something that has been done for a long time. It's not an invincible pill or anything. You don't have a force field against radio. You'll still get, radioactive everything on you, but it does help the internals not absorb it. Once it goes to your thyroid, that's what I heard, when your body starts just immediately breaking down and things go haywire. So that is pretty alarming. And then satellite images show holes in the roof of a building at the UKR nuclear power plant at Zaporizhzhia. Plant Vlad troops have been using as a shield. So, when I first heard the headline before I saw it, I thought it was you were gonna be seeing right into the building. It is a pretty big one. If you look at the size of it, it's about the size of a small car or a motorcycle. The hole in it. From these pictures, it doesn't make it look that bad, but it looks like you can see the kind of blast right around it where it hit and went in. But I don't know if those even... The thing is this could not be even a hole. If that's concrete or whatever this is made out of, it could have went boom and blew up, and that's the black from the explosion. I don't know. But it does show two of them. Dex, did they confirm that these were holes?
Well, no, I don't know, other than what we can see and what's here. But, here's the other thing to think about. If they're using it as a shield, then they're shielding themselves from the other side. So whoever put these holes up there more than likely was not the one using it as a shield. It was the one that they were shielding themselves from, right? So at the same time, you sort of ask yourself, well, yes, maybe not the best of things to do for somebody to use that as a shield, but if you're on the other side of the river, are you the one shooting at it? Like, would you do that? That just seems like, if the bad guy is hiding behind a propane tank, is that what you're going to do? Like, no.
Well, actually, you would go right at it. In every video game, you aim for the propane tank right next to the enemies, and you go, pop, boom, and then it takes out the enemies.
Bad analogy, but you know what I mean, right? It just like the story of this, it is real. Like, this thing is happening, and there are things going off by it. They've reported, numerous people have said they've seen actions happen, they've seen explosions happen. There's always finger pointing on both sides, but you can't be on one side and say they're shielding it and they're using it as a shield, but then you're the side that's lobbing things over. This doesn't make sense. You can't then turn around and say, but they're the ones doing it too. So what, they're shielding themselves from themselves? I don't know.
It's definitely getting spicy. And before we talk about the RAF, I do want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, we have one of the most awesome setups here. Again, if you have not heard of an energy solar generator, I'd highly recommend going and checking it out. It is one of the most modular, flexible, and portable and in its own footprint system out there. The energy solar generator actually works kind of like Lego blocks. In fact, they stack on top of their batteries. The batteries have the input and output on the top and bottom, so they are in their own footprint. There's no huge cords that go out and basically double the footprint, which a lot of their competitors, if you even have 2, 3, 4 batteries, that means you have giant cords going from the side out, and it makes it twice as big. It is all in its own footprint. Each battery is very easy to figure out how much you get out of it, because they're 1,000 watt hours exactly. And then also they have mods. It's modular, meaning you can edit it, you can change it. There is a supercharger mod, which I'm excited to say I finally got mine after a few months here. The supercharger mod goes in the middle, and what it does is, instead of having a limit of 4 panels per that one unit, you can then triple that to 12. So if you have 8 panels, you can then plug in 8 panels and double the amount of input going in. It's also flexible because it knows where the input is coming from. If you plug it into the wall, it knows how to take that power. If you plug it into your car, it knows how to take that power. Some of their competitors have issues with that. This is also something that can actually get you through a disaster. This can be portable if you have 1 through 5 batteries that you can do all in one stack. And then you can take it with you. Now, again, this can expand up to 96 batteries, so you could virtually make an entire wall of these. But remember, after 5, I believe you could stack 1,000 up high. But the reason why they say 5 is because past that, it's so heavy, and it's not safe to have something that heavy, that tall. But you can actually connect 5 batteries, 5 batteries, 5 batteries, up until 96. So an amazing system. It can solve a lot of issues. This is not a cheap object. This is an extremely high quality solution to a problem where this can not only save lives, but this can also have you sitting comfortable in a power outage. That is pretty amazing. Anybody that's lost power knows that without power, it's a whole different situation. So this can power all sorts of stuff, and you can expand it to where you have your time covered for however long. You can bring it with you to job sites. I've been using mine a ton. My friend actually went out and took a projector and all sorts of stuff and watched a movie in the woods with it. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. There's basically the uses are unlimited as far as where you can take this thing. But again, this is a great system. Marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to get your name on the list to get one. The lithium technology is being fought over by nations of the world. There is a wait list. So if you want to get one, you need to get your name on it and basically claim that unit. Marfooglenews.com/energy with an I, INERGY. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle to get upwards of $170 off. That not only gets you a big discount, but it also helps our channel as well. This, I believe, will do a lot of people a lot of good. And I don't want to forget, best part, it is silent. It doesn't take gas. And nobody can hear this from blocks away. That is the real downside. If SHTF happens, you do not want to let everybody in the neighborhood know you have a generator. So that's one of the best parts. You can have it inside. You can, again, great part about that. No noxious fumes. All right, Dex. So this is huge, and I think people need to really read between the lines here. On top of the story we're about to cover here in a second, the RAF, the Royal Air Force, for the first time since WW2, is now dispersing jets all over their country. Dex, they've already heard me talk about this. What is your opinion on this? First of all, they are moving these jets and all sorts of military aircraft, and they're dispersing them around the country, and in their words, basically, is so they can respond to any attack.
Well, yeah, and it's not just respond. It's also ensure that they aren't in a single location. If they have all their equipment in 3 locations, and then those 3 locations are hit, then they can easily be targeted. But by spreading them out and going to other regional airfields that have runways long enough for the type of equipment they're talking about, then this activity offers them a great, defensive position just as well as an offensive position. So what's so important, though, is this is something we haven't seen since, the second conflict, right? This is kind of a big deal. Now, they're sort of saying, don't worry, we've been planning it for years. Well, of course, they've been planning all sorts of things for years, right? They always have plans in place so that when they need to execute those plans, they can. The question is, why are they executing it now, right? There's a reason they're executing it now. It's not because, there's, sunshine and rainbows everywhere. It's because there's a problem. It's because there's this conflict going on. It's because they have a threat level that they're trying to deter and worry with. So pay attention. If, UK is now spreading their air force across their fields, that is a kind of a big deal, right? So we need to pay attention when you see what's happening. They said it's only going to be, they're starting with a couple of aircrafts that are probably easier for them to use or are able to use on the shorter runways, F-35s, and I think the other one was Typhoons. So we'll have to see how that what advances come from that, if they add additional aircraft, if they go to other larger airports instead of just regionals. But this is kind of a big deal. And a lot of people, even in over in UK, didn't know this. When we talked about it on the news channel, that was probably one of the hottest comments I kept seeing was, hey, I'm over here and we didn't even hear this yet. So this is kind of relatively new news. It's coming out. But as they tell us, they being, the officials from the RAF, is don't worry, we've been planning this for years. So
no, they said a year, but guess what?
A year.
It
doesn't matter.
They have been planning. And by the way, a year ago is when the U.S. Decided to do all the drills landing planes on U.S. highways. I pointed this out because I think this is part of the same kind of strategy. Landing jets on highways. Watch what happens when we look this up. Canding jets on highways. It'll still do it. So this is what I'm talking about. Military jets land on Michigan Highway. This was one of many. They've done A-10 Warthogs. They've done cargo jets now. And what is happening is they are practicing doing this because if our bases get hit, if every base got just out of nowhere, boom, and all of a sudden all of our airfields are down, you have everything up in the air, they would need a place to land. Well, they're having pilots practice on highways because they would now need to utilize. What's great is we have a ton of highways everywhere. They can't destroy all of our highways, or if they did, that would be basically, just nuking the crap out of us. But what they can do is turn all those highways into then landing strips. Also, I want to think about this. Just go a step further. If this ever did happen where all of our bases are hit, think about our ability to travel around the country if they then turned our highways into this. Think about that. Dex, I don't think we ever really talked about the fact that if they ever did turn our highways into this, if every base got hit, then every highway would then turn into a blocked off airfield, and then you getting across country or trying to go to see your family or trying to bug out, do whatever it is, there's not going to be a way to transport yourself there unless you're on hiking trails. This is why. Yeah, this is crazy. I mean,
yeah, it is. And what else has been going on our highways is they've been doing bridge raising. So they've been, and not by a lot, by like 3 inches all of these bridges, at least out where I am, but it's not just here, it's everywhere, because I've talked to truckers, and I've talked to Bones and others and Jammer who all know about this going on. They've been raising the bridges, and literally they'll come in, they'll take the bridge, they'll jack it up about 3 inches, they'll redo the asphalt across and up to it and make the road even above it. And when you go and you read why they're doing it, it's for a military spec. There's a specification that they need for the military, that these bridges aren't, when they were originally installed, were 3 inches, not 3 inches short, but the specification was different. So now they need this additional 3 or 4 inches, whatever it is they're raising it. It's not by much. You would think if you're going to spend all these millions and millions of dollars per bridge to raise it, you'd be raising it like 6 inches or 1.5 feet or something. But no, it's like 3 inches. So something's going on with that specification, and it is for the DoD.
You see my meaning? And then, of course, all the street lights changing to this new purple light. What if that purple light recognizes something that doesn't? If you look at the DHS list of things they needed, mass fatality tracking system. You looked at the, this device that could detect counterfeit microelectronics, like a chip. You look at the broadband telecommunications that don't need cell phone towers. What the hell is about to happen? Oh, and radiological devices that can detect things on the fly. Rapidly deployable checkpoints. This is what they're working on right now. Rapidly deployable checkpoints. Think about what that means. That means turning a road into a checkpoint. Okay? People are just they're just buried in social media so hard that they don't know what to think. And they're also not paying attention to the little stuff. The little stuff that this isn't talked about at the coolers. What's being talked about is the Super Bowl or this or that. Nobody's talking about this except for our audience and, of course, our constituents and our peers. We're paying attention. And that's why we say it doesn't look good. If you don't pay attention to this, yeah, I could see this being fear-mongering. But if you've been following this, this is more like, hey, how do you not know this? Dex.
Have you noticed, I don't know if they're doing this in your area, have you noticed the investment that's going on for traffic circles?
It's insane.
They're everywhere. Like, everybody's getting traffic circles. And that just makes me think about the whole checkpoint notion, is those are a lot easier to run in that scenario, but then having a 4-way, right? But it seems like everywhere I turn, they're converting a 4-way. They're converting 3-ways into traffic circles, which it doesn't make any sense. In some of these scenarios that I'm seeing the funding and the stuff come in from the Fed and from the states to do this on highways and on roads.
Yeah, no, and on highways where the speed limit's 40, 50, 60, and they're putting these things in and they're chopping it up into more digestible blocks. So feel like something bigger is happening here, and I'm going to be screaming it until it happens, and then people are going to go, oh, sorry you didn't listen, but it's not going to matter then. They're going to be knocking at your doors and saying, hey, we weren't prepared. We only had 3 days worth of food. Within the first 24 hours, we were screwed. That's what's going to happen. And then Mr. Francis, the POPE, instructs the Vatican entities to move all funds to the bank by September 30th. This is also another one. It's like, hello, the message is right there. They're telling every entity that is connected to put the money back into one spot. They're saying if it's scattered around Europe, if it's here, it's there, they want them by September 30th to send the money back to the main bank. What would really freak me out is if we see a piece tomorrow saying, they're gathering all of the world's art, like every piece of artwork owned by, the Catholic Church or something is being shipped back to, somewhere. That would be the next freaky thing. And watch, I hope that doesn't come true where all of a sudden the world's fine art is being collected and put in one area. If you remember what happened in WW2, you'd know why that would be. That would mean something. Dax, do you want to cover this? I already covered this over on our other video. I'd love your perspective, and I'm sure a lot of other people would be too.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people need to take away from this that, whether or not you don't like this person or you don't like this organization or all these other things, that's not what we're talking about here. Don't get wrapped up into that part of it. Don't get wrapped up into specifically, the church itself, etc. What's happening is this notion of a date. What's happening is this notion of moving funds. And this is not just a small organization. This is one of the largest organizations. Something like, some people have estimated their GDP at like 21, making them the 18th wealthiest nation in the world. Some people say that in the banking side that they hold 15 billion or more. So I think it's probably a lot more than that. And I think that we'd probably have no idea how much they actually have because they don't report it, or they don't necessarily report it all. They don't have to. But the point being that this edict went out saying, bring the money back and bring it back home, bring it back to their location, into the IOR, as they call it, which most people just call it a bank. The IOR is a technical term that they use for their financial system. So they want it all to come back, and they want it all back in the central location. So something's happening. This ought to be an eye-opener, at least make you think, look a little deeper, not necessarily just with them, but thinking about the overall big picture of the economics around the globe. Why has this got to be done by September 30th? What else is going on? And should we be trying to connect any dots here?
And that's what we're putting out here. Obviously, it hopefully is nothing. But when you combine a lot of these dots and you're saying this is just very odd. And I think that this is kind of like read between the lines, people. Obviously, there's been a lot of events in the last few years where all of us, and I believe this is true with most any one of you, and it could be different subjects, but where something is absolutely true and you think, man, it's really obvious that that's the truth. But then a rule from WW2 is they say, tell a big enough lie long enough and people will start to believe it. And they just keep saying no. They just deny, and say, nope, it's like this. And then people go, that's true. And then it changes the Wikipedia to it. And then they're like, yeah, that's what it is. Insanity. That's what it is people are not seeing the obvious truth ahead of them. Something very big is in our midst. And I don't think we will ever know until it is after it happens. Dex.
Yeah, one last statistic. I love throwing out numbers. Did you know that this church holds close to 177 million acres across the globe?
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot. It's 277,000 square miles.
Wow.
That's a lot of land.
They own a part of the planet. It doesn't surprise me to the least. So, very, very kind of obvious things are happening, and it's like, why are they doing this? Why are things moving around? Is there a collapse coming that we don't know about, that they want all of it in one place so it doesn't get scattered about? Or think about this. If something happens to where our systems don't work or something, and the computer systems of the world don't work, how would they move that money then, right? If they transfer it now, it can physically then be put somewhere. It can physically go to that place. That's what I think about when I look at this. They're moving physical money back to one home base. And of course, at first they just put a number over, but then they have to, when they transfer it, then they actually put that money somewhere else. That's freaky.
Well, and what happens in those other markets, right? Like, let's say there's, I don't know, making up a number. Let's say there's 5 billion in France somewhere, or in Swiss, and all of a sudden it's yanked out of their economic system.
Yeah, it's gonna screw up. It's gonna screw up at a lot of places elsewhere. So to do this is probably, I would assume this is a big deal, to move that amount of money out of all these different countries is going to hurt every one of those places it's getting pulled out of. It's going to hurt the banks that they're in or the different places they are invested in, right? This seems like what is they say, and the reason they gave. Well, can I let's see here. Can I find it here? Let's see. They gave a religious reason for it. Oh, it says in his August 23rd rescript, Francis said, Article 219, paragraph 3 of the Pre-Etiquette Evangelium, quote, says, must be interpreted to mean that the activity of asset manager and custodian of the movable patrimony of the Holy See and the institutions connected with the Holy See is the exclusive responsibility of the Institute of Works of Religion. Somehow that basically means, hey, this is in our thing. You need to put the money back here now. The decree will force Holy See institutions, including the Secretariat of State, to move their financial assets to the IOR by the end of September. Yeah, that's something is definitely up. Okay. I had something else here too. Man, totally forgot. That got me frazzled. Okay. Let's see here. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, guys, if you aren't already. And also follow me on, we're going to be expanding here. We're going to be trying out Rumble. We're also going to be trying out Twitch again. So, guys, get in there and make sure to subscribe and follow. All right, Dex, let's see here. Let's go over the web-only content. There is a lot of it.
Yes, so head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for today's show, or if you're on YouTube, open that description and click on the show notes link. This will take you directly to this page where you're going to see all the content we just covered. So again, that bibliography of everything we talked about. We didn't make up any of this. We found it, we brought it to you, and then we added our commentary to it. So you can find it all right there. On marfooglenews.com. If you scroll down past everything we just talked about, you're going to find the rest of the story. And there's a lot here because there's just so much happening. We couldn't cover it all. There's plenty of hot topics in here as well. There's some additional updates. What's going on with Vlad and UKR. You can see that. We've talked about these die-offs, these fish die-offs. There's one happening in San Francisco, so that's covered there as well. Definitely some updates going on with the political spectrum and what's happening. So, all the stuff with T-Man, it's covered there in a lot of detail and lots of different angles. So you can pick whichever side of the aisle you want to look at. It's covered. Plenty of updates around those topics, and I imagine we'll see much more of that as we move into the year. Definitely some other stuff going on. Even something as crazy as Ozzy is ready to leave America. He's going back to the UK because he says he's fed up with the craziness of our country. So go check that out if you're interested, as well as pay attention to what the Border Patrol was talking about. There's some crazy stuff coming across. We've talked about this topic before. It's a sensitive topic on here related to a thing you can take that comes across our border, but it's now looking like candy. So not something you want any kid to get a hold of. So that and so much more, it's all over there. I only scratched maybe like 4 or 5 of these. There's probably like 10 or 15 articles over here. So go take a look, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the description on YouTube and click on show notes. It'll take you right here.
Also, you can use the search bar in the upper right-hand corner at the very upper right. If there's any subject, like if we mention older shows or older articles, you can search those in the search corner, and that way you can get to those old shows. What it does is it will show you the thumbnail of all of the shows we talked about that subjects. You can go and click on that one, and then it brings you to all of the articles that are archived there that we talked about that show. We've been doing roughly 5 shows a week, every week for years now. So pretty much anything that is of significance is there, and it's archived for your use. Also to the creators out there that use our website to put their shows together. It's a great resource for that as well. You can get all of the links and sources. If I covered something that you're like, oh, I want to do a video on that, it's all there. We know that a lot of creators use our website to actually go and then get all of their sources put together. So that is something that we provide there, and it's available for everybody for free. So go use it. All right, and then Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And it is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. By the way, thank you, Zuby360. Thank you for gifting out 5 Marfia badges over on DLive. Pam Beth, WIS Jen, Big Fizz, Mighty Tort, Love by the Moon, of course, Aunt Jenny, Earthwoman. And again, I hope that's not somebody doing that for any bad reasons, but looks like an account of James Munder popped into DLive, praying for whoever is close to him. I hope you guys are recovering. And again, a comment there. Who was that just said something about that? Somebody said heart in throat. Heart in throat. Love you, friend. Felt that too, Adam. Heart and throat about the Terabile. About that comment from Mr. Munder, James Munder. Jason back, pray for my health. Barrett esophagus, not well. Jason, I will be praying for you. I'm sorry, and over the last 4 years, I know that you've gone through a lot. It seems like, you got to, I hope you get back on track. You have to keep your faith up, though. And then I hope to be on the show soon. I was friends with Dalton Fury. Oda P. I will have to check that out. Thank you so much, Oda P. And did you email me or anything? If you do want to make an appearance, make sure to email adam@marfooglenews.com. FG, Rick Rowland. FG, thank you so much. And everybody else, you guys have a good night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marv out. Thank you to Carolyn Welker, Mir 504, Rob Mills, Bob White, George Washington, Pamela White, Zuby360, WIS Jen, Alan V, Big Fish with a Z. We got it in the lemon zig, hey, grazing everybody said, hey, hot soup Don John, hey, hot soup Don John, man, it's nice to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. I haven't checked up on your channel, but I know we helped you hit 1,000. Thank you so much for stopping by. Recovery channel. Hello, hey Charlie, don't serve. SPQR, everybody heard. I love Jesus forever. Kathleen be missing everybody named Trevor. It all started when I was born. NH home and got it work. Got the Okie on the con. I love Jesus forever. D life, heart, Adam, man, Gasper, Joseph on the new house. Keep going, everybody loves you. David on the stuff and the Ebenezer Stone. Everybody getting on John Franstone. Hey man, back with the Pearson New Veil. Truth is Andrew, architect, well with the Danish girl. What is up, Warren G? Cruiser. What is up, the real Ostuo? I love Jesus forever. Lisa Arhall, so beautiful to see you. Gotta talk to you again. We gotta get a meeting going. Got to be called and the person go to Vail. Hey. This was like somebody commented, you need to do techno. So this is my 2-minute attempt. Stinkers will be stinkers. Yeah. That's what I actually think of the word stinker when I hear this. It's got to have that classic. One better than that. We're gonna make a Sandra Coy song. Sandra Coy. Sandra All right, let's make a new one.